Hello and welcome to Beyond the Boundary. My name's Josh. It's our second episode and round one this week. I got Nick on my right. How are you, Nick?
Yeah, great, Josh. Can't wait to get into it once again.
And Vinay on my left. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, Josh. Really excited.
Can't wait to get started, boys. It's round one, as I said. The first half of round one, it's a split round. Not happy about it, but we'll get into that.
We'll get to that later.
In the next couple of segments. Yeah. Now, we've got a very, very exciting announcement to make, boys.
Got one every week.
We've got a street talk segment lined up. We're going to tour the MCG 5 games this year. We're going to head to most likely Friday nights, but we haven't locked down the dates as yet. But we're going to come out amongst the fans, ask the fans some questions, and give you the opportunity to be on the show. So hopefully our first one, I think, is going to be Richmond and Carlton in round 2. Ooh. So we'll have to hopefully see you there. So a very exciting announcement, boys.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Can't wait to get out there and speak to the fans.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now, boys, we're introducing our new segment. It's called the Toast and Roast. For those of you that listened to the podcast last year, a Toast and Roast, it's a bit of information where we give our toast is something we like. We approve of.
We like.
Yep. And the roast is my little segment.
The Rickard roast.
The Rickard roast.
Someone who's dropped the ball in the footballing world.
Something that doesn't quite sit well with me, but we'll get to that in a second. We'll start with our toast, and I believe, Nick, you're up first.
Yeah, I'm up first. My toast this week is Paul Roos. I think he's coming in the Melbourne Football Club. The fans have been very excited about such a great premiership-winning coach coming into the club. And there just seems to be a good vibe coming out of the Melbourne Football Club. They were great in their pre-season matches, and I think that'll be a massive improvement for the club this year. Having a good atmosphere around training, which the coach seems to have brought to the club, is just so vital for a club. So, Paul Roos, good stuff.
Love it. All right, Vinay, you're up next. What do we got?
Yep, mine's actually the NAB Challenge. And the reason I'm saying that is because in years gone by, we've had a really awkward kind of pre-season competition where it's been, last year and the year before, it was this weird thing where 3 teams would play off, and I don't know, it was confusing. But this year they've done it really well. 18 games in 18 days. We love footy in this country, so I think that's a really good initiative.
Absolutely. Now, I'm up, I think. And we had our big calls last week, and I think I had Sydney on top of my ladder. I saw a team by the name of Hawthorn, the reigning premiers, against Melbourne. Melbourne's not the greatest team going around, but they've improved this NAB Challenge.
He loves his Hawkers. That's
strange for an Essendon supporter to say, but I don't mind the Hawks. But it's going to Hawthorn. They've been prolific this pre-season, and I'm going to make a big call here. A massive call.
He's gonna flop like a pancake, I reckon.
Flop. I reckon Hawthorn has the best chance of any team ever.
Oh, that's news. Okay.
Ever.
All right.
To go undefeated this year.
Oh,
that is a big call, Josh, if I've ever seen one.
Undefeated this year.
Well, that's what we're about here, boys. We're about the massive calls, the huge ones. And Rickard, he's added to the pile, I think.
Absolutely. Now, my roast. This is
the Rickard roast.
The Rickard roast.
Yeah, where I pot something that doesn't quite sit well with me, and I said at the very, very top, the split round. Boys, you want to kick the season off with a bang. What's
straight
with this
into
split round?
Oh,
what is with this split round?
I don't get it.
Got to wait 8 days from the first game of the season for some of the games.
I do not get it. I can get the buys. The buys I can get. Players get fatigued. They're tired. Split round. Why? Why, Dimitri? Why?
Absolutely. And another thing that irks me a little bit before we move on to the games this weekend is the MCG not being available. Cricket, you've had your turn. Bugger off.
Turn it up, MCC.
Turn it up. The footy season's now, cricket season's done.
I would just like to raise to both of you there that it is called the Melbourne Cricket Ground. I
don't care.
It's footy season, Lakshman.
It's the home of footy. It is footy season.
Fair call, boys. Fair call.
Speaking of footy season, let's move into the first game of the year. It is Collingwood versus Fremantle at Etihad Stadium, boys.
Friday night,
7:50 kickoff. The runners-up from last year going against the powerhouse of Collingwood.
Big game to kick off the season. Last time between these two, round 7 of 2013, it was Fremantle by 27 points at Patterson Stadium. Collingwood have a pretty good recent record against them, but Fremantle got the job done last time.
Absolutely, and I think that game I remember quite well where Fremantle actually announced themselves that they were going to be a genuine contender for 2013. Their pressure that game was absolutely phenomenal. the pressure they put on the ball carrier of Collingwood was just over the top, and it really set up their season. So it'd be interesting to see if they can go again.
Oh, for sure. To be honest, it's a huge game for both clubs. You want to start off the season with a good, solid win over a very strong team. So I think it'll be an excellent game to watch. And the fact that it's at Etihad Stadium here in Melbourne just makes it that little bit more interesting. I mean, a bit more interesting than it would have been had it been played over at Patterson's. Then a lot of us would be like, Freo will probably take it. But now there's just that element of doubt in our minds. Are Freo going to win? Are they not going to? Yeah.
And Fremantle do play Etihad Stadium very, very well under Ross Lyon. So there was only that game against St Kilda in round 23, I think it was, where they rested all their players. You can't really count. St Kilda
sent Claremont across.
Yeah, St Kilda, I think, had 3 retiring.
Cozzy, Milne and Blake.
Blake it was, yes.
Yeah, so Fremantle really got up for that one.
They put their best stars out for that game. So, but I think it's going to be a very interesting game.
Now, right off the bat, Ben Reid and Travis Cloak down forward for the Pies. This could be a really big turning point in the match. What do you think, guys?
Absolutely, Nick. I think Ben Reid's definitely going to play forward this year. We've seen that in the NAB Challenge. There is a little bit of an injury cloud over him. He didn't train with the main group today, being Monday. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets up. I'm tipping he will, but it's interesting to see that he's on a modified program and walking and running laps.
And I think we all do agree how vital he is down forward for the Pies,
for sure,
as opposed to down back. I believe it was 25 goals last season for the Pies.
One thing I'm really interested in is the ruck battle, because it seems as though Collingwood is slowly slipping into the, that section of AFL clubs that are struggling to build up a solid ruck division. They're an excellent team, but Sandilands up against Brodie Grundy. Tell you what, you would not want to be Grundy facing that man Mountain on
What was
Friday.
it? 45 and 47 hit outs in the preseason games from Sandilands.
Yeah.
That's no disrespect to Grundy. I mean,
of course
we all share that view that Sandilands is a very obviously mature ruckman, and if he plays 22 games, he could easily be All-Australian at the end of the year.
Easily, yeah.
And Grundy's going to be a very good ruckman in his career. Yeah. But we got to remember he's in his second year and he's only played about 7 games.
He's only 20, yeah.
Darren Jolly's gone. He won the most hit outs for Collingwood last year.
By about 100, I think. So.
Exactly right. And then Quinton Lynch was only 4 behind Grundy. So it's going to be a tough job for Grundy. Yeah. But let's see if the kid lives up to it.
I've got a question for you guys. Midfield. Okay, so we've looked at the rucks, we've looked at the forwards. Defence, midfield is where I think this game will be won or lost. And Pendlebury, Swan, Beams coming up against Fife, Barlow and Mundy.
Yep.
What do you guys reckon? Who's going to win that battle?
It's two of the best midfields in the competition.
Oh, for sure.
Top stars across the entire... You've got Pendlebury, Swan, Ball, side bottom Beams against Barlow, Fife, Mundy, Hill and Crowley. It's just stars on every line.
And who does Crowley go to?
Crowley, I think he has to go to Pendlebury.
Me too, yeah.
Pendlebury, Swan does his damage with the ball and kicks goals, but I think Pendlebury's more efficient. He does more with the ball.
He does, yeah.
And gets a truckload of it as well. So I think Crowley goes to Pendlebury.
Now, Fremantle were the 5th best side at stoppages last year, whereas Collingwood were the 15th best side at stoppages last year. So that could be a real part where Fremantle could just dominate this game. Around the ruck contest, you've got Sandilands bringing it down. Grundy, we talked about that, might not be up to the challenge against Sandilands. And then you've got these midfielders who, regardless of who the ruckman is getting the tap down, just dominate at picking up the ball and just getting it out there.
Yeah. One thing that should be mentioned is that, so going on that stoppages, Fremantle, their game style is very conducive to those stoppages. Yep. Like Sydney, they like forcing the stoppages. They like just strangling their opponent until they make a mistake around that stoppage area.
I think a good example there was the prelim last season.
Of course.
There was a piece of play for about 5 minutes where it just did not leave Fremantle's forward 50 against Sydney there.
Yeah. So, it'll be very interesting. Who are you guys tipping? There's a good question.
I'll be tipping the Dockers. I think their form under Ross Lyon is at Etihad Stadium is prolific. I just think they'll get the chocolates. I think they'll want to avenge their grand final loss and kick off season 2014 with a bang.
Interesting to note, Collingwood don't really play at Etihad Stadium all that often.
No, they don't.
They don't.
Could be an interesting factor there. I've gone Fremantle by 30 points. I think the combination of Sandilands, I would assume he would play against Grundy, who's still an inexperienced ruck, bring it down to those stoppage kings in the Fremantle midfield. I think it'll just be too much for the Pies. So Fremantle by 30 points.
I'm going to go the other way to you too. I'm actually going to say Collingwood by 10 points.
Second big call of the night here.
Not at all. Collingwood have been okay in that challenge.
Look, I think
Have been
Collingwood,
okay.
to be honest, like I said, if this was at Patterson's, my decision would be different. But
Yep.
it's at Etihad, it's at Melbourne, and, first game of the year, it's always very comforting to be playing in front of your home fans and at home.
Yep.
And yes, Ross Lyon does have a great record at Etihad, but so do Collingwood. They've actually been excellent at Etihad for the past 2 years. Without going too far back. So I think Collingwood, they're, like Josh said, NAB Challenge is excellent. Cloak is a machine, and I can't see Zach Dawson keeping him quiet, much too strong. I reckon the Pies will run away here.
I think also before we move on, there's some big injuries out for both teams in this game. Paul Seedsman, I think, is very underrated at Collingwood. His run off half back
Very
last year
damaging.
was
Very
fantastic. Josh Thomas as well, he came in the second half of the year. He
undercard.
may play. I mean, we haven't named him in the side you can see on your screen at the moment, but only because he's got a little bit of an injury cloud, but we haven't named him just for that reason. But he may play, but obviously Matthew Scharenberg as well. He's going to be out for half the season. He was picked 6, so he's obviously got some talent. So he's a big name as well. The Dockers, we've named Ballantyne as well, but he's also under an injury cloud. Matthew Pavlich said today at his press conference that he expects him to play, but still has a little bit of a fitness cloud. Zach Clark, I think, is the big one. He supported Aaron Sandilands when Sandilands played last year very, very well. And when he didn't, he stepped up to that number one ruck role. So he's going to be a big out as well. And I think the one that hurts the most is probably Gumbleton. I mean, a lot of people say that he's injury prone and stuff like that, but Fremantle recruited him for a reason, to be that second string to Pavlich. And now he's out for half the season with that hamstring.
Having said that, though, Ross Lyon did come out and actually explicitly state that he has not put all his eggs into the Gumbleton basket. Like, he was very well aware that injury scares could occur. So, Ross Lyon, he's the man with the plan. I think he's got a backup. He'll have a backup.
Absolutely. All right, boys. Moving on to GWS and the Sydney Swans.
Matches around.
The Battle
Oh,
of
for sure.
the Bridge.
Battle of the Bridge. The
Battle
suspense.
of the Bridge.
I remember
been
Josh
waiting-
Kennedy got very angry at that last year, JPK.
Yeah.
He was very annoyed at people labelling that as a derby and the Battle of the Bridge. Really annoyed him.
Oh, okay. A little bit of a rivalry building already. It's fantastic to
I'll tell you
see.
what, boys, I've been waiting for this game all pre-season. This is the one I look forward to every year. On to the serious stuff. It's Saturday afternoon at the interesting name Spotless Stadium.
Very
like
clean.
it.
Very
I don't
clean.
like it.
Possibly could have got the Rickard roast this week. I think it was a
I reckon,
candidate.
yeah.
It was discussed, but went the other way.
Last time these two teams met, it was round 1 of 2013. It was Sydney by 40 points at Star Track Oval.
There's another good name. Star Trek.
Now, first off the rack, Buddy Franklin. How big of a factor is he going to be, not just in this game, but for Sydney this season?
Well, Tippett and Goods aren't playing this game. They won't play. They're out injured. So he's going to take the mantle as the number one forward, which is what he was at Hawthorn.
Yep.
So he'll allow to roam that forward 50 with Sam Reid, I'm guessing. Sam Reid's a terrific young forward. He reminds me a little bit of your boy Tom Hawkins at Geelong. He's taken his time. He's shown glimpses throughout his career. I think this is just going to be the year he's going to float under the radar and kick maybe 30, 40 goals this year. So he's going to be a pivotal factor as well. Buddy, who knows which Buddy we're going to see.
Yeah, look,
he's the type of player who could just do anything.
Look, if you caught us last week, I was saying that my big call was that Franklin's not going to have the year that everyone's expecting him to. And I maintain that, the fact that Tippett and Goods are out will only hurt him, I think, because as the number one forward, he's got to work for his ball. He's also his contested marking's dropped off as well. So don't see Buddy. It's GWS though. No offense to any GWS supporters or any GWS in general, but very inexperienced backline. So maybe he can cash in.
I think what GWS have done this off-season is got out and got the experience that they needed. I think early stages when they were able to sign those free agents that were out of contract, the likes of Tom Scully, Callum Ward, Phil Davis, they're all very young. Whereas you see Gold Coast went out and got Gary Ablett, Jared Brennan, Michael Riscatelli, Jared Harvey.
They had Josh Fraser initially. And
Fraser, they got experience from the very beginning. This is where I think Gold Coast have got on top of GWS in the recruiting.
Smart recruiting.
So GWS are now probably a year behind, but they've got out and got Heath Shaw, who's their biggest name recruit so far. Shane Mumford, Josh Hunt, Dylan Addison, probably all four will line up against the Sydney Swans. So that experience they bring in is going to be absolutely pivotal to nurture these young guys through the year.
I think some of these players, they've been sort of pushed out of their squads. Mumford by Pike, Josh Hunt by Cam Guthrie at the Cats. That's not to say that these players aren't up to scratch, but more the fact that there's just been younger players sort of looking towards the future. These players have been pushed out. Josh Hunt's I think he's a 3-time premiership player. He certainly hasn't lost any of that. Vinay and I were talking off air. He's got a giant boot on him. He'll be very valuable for GWS.
Absolutely.
Boys, one sec before we get into the tips. How about this GWS forward line? Patton, Cameron, Boyd, and Tomlinson.
It's scary if they can get it working, but
goodness.
how do they get it working?
That is a lot of timber
the
down
question.
there. That is a lot of tall
How
timber.
do they get it working?
They are the GWS Giants. They are living up
Literally,
to
they
their
are literally the GWS
Yeah,
Giants.
absolutely. I think we'll see one of them miss out early, and I think that will be Tom Boyd.
Yeah.
Okay.
For lack of experience, I think.
Yeah, lack of experience, and he's only played the one pre-season game as a GWS Giant. He played one game with the reserves, but I think we may see him miss out, and Tomlinson might get the gig over him.
Yeah.
But the Giants have floated the idea of either Cameron or Patton going down into defence. So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
That's
it'll be
very
interesting to see if
yeah.
they send Jeremy Cameron down there, because we saw what he could do last year. He finished third in the Coleman.
Yeah.
If they put him down back, it puts a lot of pressure on Patton, Boyd and Tomlinson to kick those goals that go missing.
It certainly does. Now, the tips, gentlemen. Josh, first off.
Sydney by 45. I think they'll just ease into it. They don't normally send out some slackings early on the Sydney Swans, so they'll just ease into it, 45 points.
I think it's going to be a mighty close game, guys. I think Sydney will get the job done by about 50 points. Show no mercy against their crosstown rivals.
Just a couple of goals, I think he's
A couple of goals.
Vinay, I think you've tipped them by a couple of goals
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, look, I think Sydney will probably give them a shellacking, to be honest.
Shellacking.
An absolute canning. Although I do expect to see some glimpses of brilliance from GWS, which they always give us, from guys like Whitfield, Shield, Treloar. These guys are going to be household names in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I think they'll really give us something to talk about, but Sydney by about 78.
Now, Vinay, before we move on, just quickly,
Yeah.
I did the best 22s for this,
You did.
and I've put Toby Green as an emergency.
He has.
The only reason I've done that is because his disposal is woeful, and he needs to pick it up. Otherwise, he is going to find himself spending a lot of time in the reserves. Vinay, you wanted to make a statement about that.
Nonetheless, yes, his disposal efficiency is awful, but he is one of their best midfielders. He is. He's probably one of their best young players, and probably 2 years ago he was their best player, full stop, after Cameron. If Toby Green, if Josh here is right, if he is right in suspecting that Green is not named, if he is not in the best 22 come round 1, I will actually change my name to Rickard for an entire week.
To Rickard.
Yep, I'll demand that everyone calls me Rickard. You boys will be calling me Rickard on the show the week after.
That'd be weird.
That is how sure I am. That is how sure I am that Toby Green will be named.
Now, last week, for those who watched the season predictions video, Vinay vowed, I can't remember which player it was, but if something happens... If Jack Darling wins the Coleman medal, he will name his first child Rickard.
He's giving me a lot of ammunition, Josh.
It's going to be Rickard and
You said
Rickard.
Dunstan. You said Dunstan.
It's going to be Rickard and Rickard Jr. over this end of the table.
Anyway, boys, moving on to
serious
our next
stuff.
game, which is Saturday night. Gold Coast versus Richmond at Metricon Stadium. The last time these two teams met, it was Richmond by 9 points, finally getting over the Gold Coast Suns
Breaking the hoodoo.
at Kazali Stadium. Only just, but managed to get the job done. Boys, I really liked Richmond this pre-season. I saw them play against my boys at Punt Road on Friday. And although it's a practice match, don't read too much into it. You got to take something out of it. And their ball movement was something.
They were certainly very impressive. They've really struggled, as you mentioned, against Gold Coast in the past. This one against Metricon Stadium, finally, that Kazali Stadium little tradition they had going on up there has been broken. So it'll be really interesting to see the kind of performances these two teams throw up at Metricon.
Absolutely.
Look, it's a fortress. That Metricon Stadium is now a fortress.
Very impressive win against Collingwood last year.
Yeah, and again, it's a pre-season match, but last week up at Metricon, they played their practice game against Collingwood. were winning. They were up by 8 goals at halftime, and if it wasn't for a miraculous Collingwood fight back, and that was without Ablett, for those of you out there that think that Ablett still carries the Gold Coast.
Just for those playing at home.
That was without Gadge. So, I'm telling you, boys, those Suns up there are brewing something.
Absolutely. Boys, one quick thing before we move on to our next point on this game.
Yep.
Is it time we stop calling the Gold Coast Suns young?
I think it is. I think this is the year. This is their
fourth year.
Coming of
Fourth
age.
year.
Fourth year.
I think fourth year is when we can expect them to start pushing for finals. I think they will definitely be among that group that is... I saw the point the other day, I think it was by one of the Herald Sun writers, that this year the competition won't be compromised with these young up-and-coming teams. They'll actually be competitive. They won't be trying weird combinations of players. They've got a structure now, Gold Coast and GWS, and they'll be sticking to it.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I don't think they're a young side anymore. I think they're a true football side.
Absolutely. All right, boys, moving on to the Tigers. Ivan Maric is going to be a big, big loss. He's out for the first 5 to 6 weeks of the season. A lot of pressure on Sean Hampson. A timely trade, you might say. But also, it puts a little bit of pressure on their forward line again. Hampson was recruited to play that probably third tall down the forward line and give Maric a chop out.
And just on Hampson, a lot of people criticise, I think it was pick 28 they got for Hampson. And people are saying, this is ridiculous. This player has gone for higher than pick 28. But Richmond they had that pick. They've seen this issue in this side. If they brought him in as depth, so be it. But Maric is now out, and if it wasn't for Hampson, they'd be in a lot of trouble right now. So I think it's been great recruiting by the Tigers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting point that you raise, and I do think Richmond, they're a side that, in a way, you could also say they're young as well. They've got some pretty young guys in their team. Steve Morris, Brandon Ellis, Reece Conker, Nick Vlosten. These are all, they're not old or anything. They're probably around the same age as most of the Gold Coast guys.
Yeah.
So, I don't think you got to start looking at Gold Coast as one of the proper teams now. They're not easy beats anymore. They're just a solid AFL side that have come to play. And before, I don't want to say my tip yet, but I honestly think there's an upset brewing up there at Metricon.
Now,
You just did.
a big factor could play a part in this game. Do Richmond have enough firepower down there to support Jack Riewoldt?
Yes, they do.
Last season, Riewoldt kicked 58 goals. Vinay's just with the snide comments over there. Vickery with 27, Martin with 23. Next best was King with 21. They've got Aaron Edwards. They've got Sean Hampson, who you said will be moving towards the ruck.
We've got Sean Edwards. No, sorry, not Sean Edwards.
Aaron Edwards.
Isn't there another Edwards?
And Shane.
Shane Edwards.
Shane Edwards.
Sean Edwards.
Sean Edwards is at Essendon.
Yep, my bad. Sorry,
I
boys.
don't know what's going on with these boys over here, but back
Settled.
on task. So is there enough tall timber down there to help out Jack Riewoldt?
I think there is. I think Vickery's slowly starting to come of age. He's starting to take that second forward role, really compromise with Jack Riewoldt. He kicked, how many was it last year? 27. If he can get that up to 35, 40, I think we can see the Tigers maybe pushing top 4. Imagine the Tiger Army if they finish top 4. It's going to be unbearable.
One thing we've got to notice, though, boys, is that Dustin Martin is third on that goal-kicking list. He's now playing at half-back. So, he's not going to be... But then, on the flip side of that coin, Trent Cotchin kicked, I think, 4 goals and then 2 in the practice game. So...
Yeah.
That's 6 in 2 games. He's also firing up to have a season down.
And I think he kicked less than 10 for the year last year.
So he's already kicked more than he did the whole year.
It's something that he's worked on in the preseason.
Yeah. So who are we tipping, boys?
I'll go first. I think I'm really... I don't want to say I'm excited because it's Richmond and they're not my favourite team, I'll admit. But I've got nothing against them. It's just me being an Essendon supporter, not a favourite. I really like what they're doing down at Punt Road. And the sleeping giant is awakening.
Oh, it's awakening.
It's awakening big time.
Big call number 3.
Richmond by 34 points in this game.
Oh,
34 points. I think it'd be a bit closer than that. I think we said Gold Coast isn't a young team. I think they'll be able to stick with Richmond a lot more than what they have been able to stick with teams in the past. But I do think Richmond will be able to run away with it. I've got Richmond by 20 points. I think they'll just get the job done there.
Vinay?
I'm going to go against you boys again now. And I tell you what, you guys are really backing Richmond here. I'm going to back Gold Coast here. I reckon they'll win this. I'm telling you. I'll be sitting in this chair next week telling you, I told you Gold Coast would win it. But I've got them by 11. They showed that they can play without Ablett. So it's scary to think what will happen when Ablett does come into the mix.
Yeah.
Daniel Jackson is not playing, so that is their number one tagger and probably the only person I considered that could have an impact on Ablett. He's gone. So Ablett's coming to Metricon. He's going to go nuts, and Gold Coast will win by 11 points.
Richmond have already said that Matt Thomas has got the job on Gary Ablett, so we'll see how Matty Thomas goes. But I think Vinay's just trying to get ahead in the tipping, Nick.
I think he's trying to get behind. We will be keeping track of the tips.
We will.
Letting you know
We got a tipping competition all year.
So every time Vinay takes some silly tips out on the left there.
Silly, he says. We'll see you silly on next Monday. We will.
You'll
Nick.
know about it. Moving on
Yeah.
to Carlton versus Port Adelaide, which is Sunday night at Etihad Stadium. Last time, I actually forgot to write this one down. We believe it was Carlton by 1 point.
Carlton
Yes.
by 1 point, round 23 last year. It got them
At Amy
into
Stadium.
the finals at Amy Stadium. The clash jumper was horrible.
That was
for both
The
teams.
jail bar.
The
I'm
jail
going to go as far as say that was farcical.
Oh,
Josh.
there it is.
Oh, boy.
Ding. But
The Battle of the Prisoners it was.
yeah,
All just with
Port
their
Adelaide
jail
were wearing
bars.
their prison jumper, and
Just quietly, how does that happen? Like,
it shouldn't happen.
How does meatloaf happen, Nick?
let's not get into that. But two
Moving
teams
on.
were in black and white. Anyway,
Boys, we've got the Port Adelaide midfield to consider. Obviously Carlton going in without Chris Judd or Andrew Carazzo, number one tagger, and some would say their number one midfielder.
yeah.
So, Port going in with Boak, Wingard, Wines, Broadbent, everything they need.
Brad Ebert as well.
Brad Ebert as well. They've got everyone.
Hamish Hartlett.
Hamish Hartlett. They've got it.
Can we just ring off a list here? Boak, Wingard, Wines, Broadbent, Monfries, Ebert, Hartlett, Corns, Pollock, White. That is an absolute arsenal of midfielders for Port Adelaide to choose from.
Considering where they were 2 years ago, they had very little midfield. They had very little of a list.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
Ken Hinkley. I told you he's the magician.
absolutely.
Waves the wand and turns them all
And
into excellent.
I hear
great
Josh
midfield.
thinks this midfield could soon be one of the best in the competition.
And I don't say that lightly. I think they can be, even by the end of this year.
He's not by the end of this year.
By the end of this year, I think they could be one of the best midfields in the competition.
It's certainly some star-studded young players there. Just on the contrary there, we've got Carlton who are missing Judd and Carazzo. Carlton were the worst-ranked side for uncontested possessions last season.
Yeah.
And they're coming against this hard-nut Port Adelaide midfield.
Don't give up.
That could be a big contrast there in the match.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely. The midfield's going to be a big issue. But the goal kicking, where are the goals coming from? Yaron is in their top goal kicking. He's having issues. Waite, Betts is gone. Henderson is injured.
I think one thing you can just consider really easily is just their two leading goal kickers last year were small forwards.
Yeah.
You've got Garlett who kicked 43, which is it's almost unheard of for a small
For a
forward.
small forward to kick that much. Yeah, it's
to lead
almost
the goal.
Stephen Milne-esque.
Yeah, and Eddie Betts, who's now gone, was on 27. Jared Waite was also with 27. Josh said off air before he thinks Jared Waite needs 6 goals for Carlton to win this match.
Yeah, I don't back down from that either. I think with Lockie Henderson out, it looks like he's going to be out. We had a look at the injury list on the AFL website earlier, which was updated on the 4th of March, and it said 1 to 2 weeks. So he may play, but we haven't named him, have we? No, we haven't named him. In our best 22, I haven't named him. Sorry, for round 1. But without Henderson down there, it's going to be a lot of reliability on Jared Waite to kick those goals.
We've been waiting for
Carlton.
While. We've been waiting for a while, boys.
Yeah, they said they were coming.
We've been waiting for a while for Jared Waite to.
But
Just no one going to laugh at that, or?
I'm not. Was that a membership campaign? I'm missing the joke here.
Yeah, I'm missing
We've
it.
been
Moving
waiting
on.
a while for Jared Waite.
Oh,
There it is. The penny drop.
terrible.
There's the door. Like. Now, just on that point, on the other end of the scale, Port Adelaide have great firepower. You've got Schultz, who kicked 49 last year, Wingard with 43, Monfries 39, and Westhoff 31.
That's a lot of goals.
You're comparing that, see, all these tall or
That
to
is a lot
medium
of
tall
goals.
players who are booting, 30 plus goals,
Oh, yeah.
40 plus goals. Whereas for Carlton, you've got, Betts, who is now at Adelaide, who is almost leading their goal kicking. So could be a big gulf in the goals there.
All right, boys, who are we tipping?
Ooh, I reckon, I don't know, it seems relatively straightforward. The fact that it's here in Melbourne as well, I think Carlton will do it comfortably by about 20, especially because Port Adelaide have clouds over Schultz. He's very important for them. So I reckon Carlton by 22 points.
We just talked about how Port Adelaide will be dominating in quite a few areas. I'm going to go back on that. I think it'll be a very close game. I couldn't separate them.
Yep.
The fact that it's in Melbourne, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go for Carlton. 15 points, I think. Just get the job done.
I'm going the Port Adelaide Power.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they'll kick off their season fantastic. I think Carlton are just missing key players. The injury list consists of Carazzo, Henderson, Judd and Doherty as well.
Yeah,
So,
Doherty,
I like Port Adelaide. I really do. And I think they'll just get up by 5 points.
All right.
5 points.
5 points.
Dominant performance from the Power there.
I can see that happening.
And that's the first half of round 1 wrapped up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Should be exciting.
Absolutely. Moving on, we've got some questions that we want to answer that we put out on Facebook last night, I think it was.
Yep.
Our first one comes from Judy. She asks, where will Hawthorn play Ryan Schoenmakers this year? I'll get it out eventually. Ryan Schoenmakers this year, boys. Where do we see him fitting into the Hawthorn lineup?
Oh, well, he's always been a defender, and, he cops a lot of flack for always spoiling it and not marking it. So I reckon, I genuinely think Ryan Schoenmakers will continue to play down back. I mean, he gets a lot of crap from people, but he can be a very good defender. He has that talent. He's been pretty unlucky with injury. Al Clarkson really rates him, and, there are very few players in that Hawthorn side, if any, that you can say are bad.
Yeah.
So,
Like a lot of players in the AFL at the moment, he's got a shocking haircut, but I think he might actually play forward.
Really?
I think he might play forward.
Josh is a big fan of Ryan Schoenmakers.
I am. I'm one of few that rate him very, very highly.
So you like him in his current position, but you think they're going to move him?
Yeah.
He's stumped. I've got him.
I think he'll play forward.
You think he'll play forward? Okay, there we go. Thanks for the question, Judy.
What about you, Nick?
I'd agree with you.
Down back?
I think he's done all right down back. I don't think he's been as bad as people have suggested. He's been part of a couple of jokes there. I think he's been a very solid player. I don't see any reason why I'll go forward, as Josh will suggest. I think I'll stay back.
I like being different.
Next one comes from Connor. So thank you, Connor, for this question. Will Chris Mayne spend more time in the midfield this season for Fremantle?
I think he will, actually.
Yeah.
I think he was very impressive the times he did play there last season. What do you boys think?
It's interesting. I think I spoke about it earlier. Scott Gumbleton going down, he leaves a massive hole.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Chris Mayne played that second role to Matthew Pavlich last year, and even when Pav missed out through injury, he was the main man down forward. So yeah, I can see him maybe playing 5-6 minutes a quarter in there.
Yeah.
But I think he'll predominantly be forward.
Yeah, fair call. He's one of the hardest working players in the AFL, honestly. I remember he made a comment that he would rather lay 10 tackles than have 10 disposals.
Yep.
So he's a team worker. He works extremely hard, and he can be used anywhere, really. He's an extremely accurate set shot, so that'll come into Ross Lyon's calculations when he wants to know where to put him. But I can see some midfield time for him.
Oh, Vinay, this one's directed at you, I guess, considering it's surrounding the West Coast Eagles. This one's from Morgan, also on our Facebook page.
Hello, Morgan.
How will Nic Nat Anui's body... I'll try that again. How will Nic Nat Anui's body hold up this year?
Sort of just crawled through that.
It crawled out.
How will Nic Nat Anui's body hold up this year? And if he's not fit, who is going to take over?
Thank you. Answer your own question.
Thanks for the question, Morgan. It's a very good one. Nic Nat's body, look, he's had a good preseason, honestly, but Adam Simpson, he has gone with a very softly kind of approach. He's not pushed him into strong training. He's been very, very tentative, extremely tentative. Do not be surprised if Nic Nat is A, rested for round 1, or B, subbed off. These are all likely possibilities. And if he's not fit, it'll definitely be Callum Sinclair who will take over, 100% guaranteed. Callum Sinclair, excellent. Reminds me a lot of Dean Cox. Gathers a lot of the ball and kicks goals. So let's hope Nic Nat's fit, though.
I have to agree. I think Callum Sinclair has overtaken Scott Lysett as
he has.
number 3 ruckman, I guess,
Yeah,
behind Cox and Nat Nui. So Sinclair's preseason was fantastic. I thought his game against Fremantle in, where was it? The first game?
Joondalup,
that's the one. I thought he was fantastic that game.
Yep.
He really stood up. Played well against Sandilands as well. Yep. So I think he's gone past Scott Lysett. So
I think you boys have summed it up perfectly, but I just really hope we can see Nic Nat fit and at his best this season.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd agree.
It's so disappointing when such exciting players, such cult figures in our game like Nic Nat is, are forced to spend so much time on the sidelines.
He brings that.
Oh yeah,
that's what he does.
He does bring that.
He brings that into the club. Yeah. People pay to see him play.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, I think we're done. I think we're done for our second episode. It's been a lively episode and a few little mumbles and jumbles, but we'll get there.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Hope you enjoyed it, absolutely.
Make sure you tune in next week for the second half of round 1. Round 1.5, I think we'll call it. Where it'll be Geelong, Adelaide.
Essendon, North Melbourne. That's going to be a massive game.
We've got some very good games next week.
Very good
actually.
games.
All very good games.
West Coast and the Bulldogs.
Correct, from Patterson's.
Patterson Stadium, Adelaide, and we should have prepared. Adelaide played Geelong down at Simmons.
Oh, they do. First game of the round.
First game.
Yeah.
But
The second half of the round, we'll get to it.
yeah, we'll get there. We'll have the full fixture for you next week. Bit under pressure here, but if you'd like to send us an email, guys, btb@live.com.au.
You got it this week.
I got it this week.
Yeah.
Our Twitter handles are right here. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Give us a like on Facebook as well if you like what you see. It doesn't take that long to give us a like. Subscribe, absolutely. Leave us a comment. Give us some feedback. We're always open to feedback, hoping to improve the show as the year goes on. Nic, thanks for joining us.
No
Vinay,
problem.
thank you for joining us.
Pleasure as
Justin, thank you for your help again.
Justin Westhoff down there.
Mr. Producer.
Thanks to my parents as well, who have given us this beautiful garage for us to do our show in.
Studio.
We'll see you next.
Moving to an actual studio soon.
We will. Hopefully, we will see you next week. Thanks for joining us.